We just saw that Larry Fink was having dinner with one of the most influential people in the world and probably pushing his book. I want to talk about that, talk about some new entities buying Bitcoin, how Bitcoin has really changed drastically, what Bitcoin is, and how people view it in even just the last few months. Let's go through it. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notification underneath the video. There's also a link to Margex underneath the video in case you want to trade cryptocurrencies using leverage. There's a link. There's no KYC as well, so you can get started. You don't have to give them your social security number, a birth certificate. You don't have to give them your personal information. You just give them an email, a password, check their terms and conditions, and you can start trading. So there is a link to that underneath the video. And there's also a link to CoinW as well. Same thing, you don't need to KYC, and they both have spot trading now. So definitely check those links out. Now, we got some news on inflows. We'll cover it very briefly because we're still getting numbers in, but IBIT had a pretty decent day in terms of volume, about 1.6 billion, GBTC about 700 million, and FBTC almost 500 million. A big outflow day from GBTC, about $303 million flowing out, which, as you can see, is the biggest day in about 5 days. Even this day, these few days, I guess, here were about the same. So really, this was tied for the biggest outflow in the last 10 trading days. BITB with $40 million worth of inflows. We don't know how the other ETFs stack up yet, so we'll have to continue to watch that. But we did get some interesting news this morning, and we'll get to Larry Fink later in the video, but we got news about Metap Planet announcing a new financial strategy. They're going to embrace Bitcoin as their core treasury asset for the company going forward with an initial amount of 1 billion JPY, which is Japanese currency. I looked it up and it looked like it was just short of 7 million US dollars, which is interesting. And I've seen some people talk about this positively. Some people say just be careful because this is an early stage investment firm. So they're buying a lot of things that aren't Bitcoin, but they're talking about holding some Bitcoin on the balance sheet as well. And if Bitcoin does what we think it will do, that Bitcoin can make up for a myriad of bad investments. And I've been talking about Bitcoin as a treasury asset more often because just last week we saw the Kansas City Cattle Company. I feel like I've said their name. I've said cattle more in the last week than I think I have in 5 years, but they put Bitcoin as a reserve asset, a treasury reserve asset. I made a video yesterday talking about Bitcoin now being my treasury asset for, or half of my emergency fund for one of my rental properties. But we see this, and I think a lot of people forget there are a lot of other companies that do this as well. For example, Tether, they continuously use their profits to buy more Bitcoin as a treasury asset. MicroStrategy, this is their whole plan. This is what they've been doing for the last 4 years. They were a technology company that just started to buy Bitcoin. And then as time went on, they continued to lever themselves up. And this is more their focus now is the Bitcoin side. But we've seen this with a variety of companies, and this does change the game a little bit. Instead of thinking about Bitcoin as this risky asset, a risk-on asset, some entities are now just buying it because they don't want to hold US dollars anymore. And even Tesla bought Bitcoin as a hedge or as an investment that they had in their treasury. I think it's an interesting time to be in cryptocurrency because, like I said, there's just a lot of money. There's just a lot of money sitting in business accounts doing nothing, in emergency funds doing nothing. And yeah, if you can put some of it to work in Bitcoin, Bitcoin typically outperforms the market. It can be very lucrative place to keep some extra cash. Now, I want to get to something with Larry Fink, some big news that kind of is just circulating around the market now. But there are a couple of cryptocurrencies that I'm watching. I'm working with in an advisory role a bit, and I think they're pretty interesting. Reddit coin. I've talked about this once on the channel before. Very small, but doing quite well recently. If you look here, it's up 15% today, 93% in the last 7 days. Keep in mind this is super risky. It's a meme coin. It's $7 million. I am watching this. This is something I'm going to be holding. And we also got some news about Extrak AI too. They did a partnership with Reddit Coin. Now, that might be part of the reason that's pumping up here today. Maybe put this one on your radar. Of course, this isn't financial advice. There's also another token that I'm looking at, which is Pipa, which is a tribute to Pepe's wife. Again, an interesting one, super small, super risky, could be gone tomorrow, but also could be pumpable, right? A lot of these cryptocurrencies have been doing well recently. Now on to the BlackRock news. Top American CEOs dined with the Chinese president last November in San Francisco. This is interesting. I didn't hear about this at the time. I don't think really anyone talked about it. I could be wrong. But now, just today, we saw China's largest funds are applying for spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now, the cool thing about this is there were some really big titans of business that were in attendance. Tim Cook, the CEO of Blackstone, Larry Fink was there as well. Maybe they're talking about Bitcoin. You don't know, but it is interesting to see China starting to look like they maybe will approve some ETFs. And this is really interesting because they literally kicked out miners, Bitcoin miners, just a few years ago. I don't know if we want to bet on this, but it is interesting to see. And there are just a lot of large entities getting in here. I mean, even Jeff Bezos could be buying Bitcoin. We don't know who Mr. 100 is. We don't know who some of the largest wallets are. But we do know that Amazon's old CEO, Jeff Bezos, sold a lot of stock, $8.5 billion in Amazon stock recently. And he was spotted with Michael Saylor. What do you think Michael Saylor is doing with a billionaire, right? He's probably talking about Bitcoin. And it is interesting. There are just so many large entities, whether it is whole of China possibly buying Bitcoin, Bitcoin ETFs in the US, Larry Fink directing people to buy Bitcoin, maybe Jeff Bezos, Michael Saylor, all these entities, all these companies that are buying Bitcoin. Just seems like a great time to be in the crypto market. But let me know your thoughts on all this. Of course, we will have to see how the fund flows come in for the day. This could influence the market. Obviously, if for some reason we had an outflow from BlackRock or Fidelity, right, we could fall back down. But right now, the market is looking healthy. Now, I do think it's very possible that we could hit all-time high soon, but we'll have to see. We did break out of this triangle, which is a good sign. And right now, we're just consolidating. Just sideways action throughout the day, which, I'm happy with. I'm okay with that. I did put on some longs, I think it was last week, maybe even the week before, on Ethereum, on Bitcoin, and they're doing really well right now. Let me know if you're long the market, if you're short in the market, if you're just sitting on your hands and waiting. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. You can check out the links underneath the video in case you want to start trading, and I'll see you in the next one.